Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I wanted to bring you my brand new updated Ridgeways build. I say brand new, this is actually very similar to the Ridgeways build that I posted within 24 hours of the patch going up, the update for Ridgeways, in which they buffed it from 10 meters to 15 and drastically enhanced the armor regen that you get from multiple bleeding targets. I think that was maybe TU 10 points something. I can't remember the exact time, but this is a very similar build, and just to quickly summarise it, we're essentially combining two main hallmarks, which should be the case with any PvP build, which is high survivability in conjunction with high weapon damage. The beauty with Ridgeways is it's actually very easy to get both of these very high up, as opposed to being a jack of all trades, master of none. The survivability of this build is insane, and the damage is even more insane, and there's a very specific combination that you'll see in the conflict footage utilising the sidearm that I'm using, in which you can deal ridiculous amounts of damage. If you have a few different teammates with a couple of different buffs on, you know, firewall and survivalist, everything else, you can hit nearly a million a headshot on a 4 blue build. Yes, you heard that correctly. You have the capability to one shot a 6 red or 6 yellow with a build that has 4 blue and is mostly spec'd into status and armor regen. So this build is lethal. We have the survivability from the armor regen from the 2-piece Golem, and of course the Ridgeways itself, and the bulwark skill that you can see below there. We have the high weapon damage from a load of multiplicative and amplified damage stats that work very specifically from us bleeding enemies, and of course from the pistol that we pull out with the bulwark. That's where a lot of the big spike damage will come from. There is a specific way that you need to use this build though. You don't want to just be going around pistoling everyone behind a bulwark. That's a little bit cheesy. And you know, I know for those yet that are thinking, hang on a second Fox, you don't like status builds, why are you using this? You're absolutely right, and you know, if you are thinking that, then that's a very fair thought. I do absolutely, and you know, it's no secret that I don't like status in PvP. I know a lot of good players that have completely left the game purely because of the sort of lesser experienced players that maybe aren't so good with their aim, and as a result then have to rely on status builds. You know, that's fair enough, it's in the game, and if you want to get kills, then that will definitely do it for you. But ultimately the whole point of this channel and what I want for the game is to promote game health. I want more people to play conflict, more people to play the dark zone, and tier 6 status builds that you can hide 50 meters away and fire a sticky bomb out of cover or leave a bleed hive out of their spawn absolutely does not do that. It causes people to leave in frustration, it causes people to just quit the game outright. You know, I'm not a fan of that. This build, yes, it employs status, but you need to be close range and you need to be able to hit headshots. That's one of the two caveats of this build. So this rewards good game sense and good aim. If you don't have good game sense and good aim because you have been using status builds for too long, that's fine. Treat this as a wean yourself off of status build. You still satisfy your lust for bleeding enemies because, you know, no one can deny that it is good fun. But you won't be in the situation where you are just causing people to leave in frustration because they'll peek out of cover, get hit by a sticky bomb and just die. You know, that's not good for the game health. It's not good for the experience of everybody that you're coming up against, and that is the part that I have an issue with. So sorry to sort of go on a little bit about that. I do just want to clear that up. I have no issue with Ridgeway's build. You know, it's a tier 0 skill build essentially, and I'm not even using a stinger hive. I don't agree with stinger hives. I don't agree with sticky bombs outside of the EMP because that does no damage. You know, I'm not about that kind of cheese. It's mortars, none of that. That should all be massively neutered in PvP. But this build is, yeah, it does employ status purely to proc our abilities and to give us armor regen, both of which we need to be in close range combat, both of which we need to be able to land our shots. So, you know, this build rewards a steady and skilled hand, and it is a great way to improve your own aim if you are looking to come away from status. So try this out. But with all that out of the way, let's get started with the description of the build. I'm going to go through all of the different pieces on here. I'll quickly show you my stats, and then I will load solo queue into a conflict game to demonstrate exactly how it all works. Of course, this is all time-stamped in the description below, so if you do want to skip to any part of the video, feel free to do so. And whilst you're down there, you will see the link to my Discord server and my Twitch channel as well, so feel free to jump in those. I haven't been streaming too much lately, but I do like to stream PvP, the occasional raid, sometimes a bit of Legendary Summit. You know, if you want to support the channel further, then jump in on that, and I'm quite curious to see how far the Twitch channel can go as well. So let's get started with the build. We are of course using Survivalist for two main reasons, just to quickly show you at the front desk. One is the Survivalist D50. Now this is a insane sidearm. I have not used this really at all, and you know, I only started really playing the game in TU8, but I've never really used this, and I didn't realise just how powerful this was. What you need to do is make sure that in your Survivalist you've got turned on sidearms, 15% increased sidearm damage, and the 15% increased SMG damage. We also have a couple of nice little passives. The armor kit is one of the better ones for PvP because it heals everybody based off of our own max armor. So as we're at 4 blue, it will take that and apply 100% of that over 5 seconds to anybody else that is within range. Very, very nice armor kit. We also gain, and I don't know if this works actually with the armor kit, but the 15% increased outgoing healing. If somebody knows this for definite, could you please confirm or deny whether this does impact your armor kit healing other people in PvP, or PvE for that matter? My understanding is this is only skill healing, so for example hives and drones and so on that heal you, but I'm not 100% on that. It doesn't specify skill healing, so it just says outgoing, which, you know, the armor kit is an outgoing heal. So could somebody please clear that up in the comments for us all? I would love to know the specifics on that. Another feature that I really like is the incendiary grenade. This is one of the best. In fact, no, I'm going to say this is the best grenade for PvP. It does hardly any damage, which is why I like using it. Again, I'm not a fan of somebody just burning somebody and killing them with no skill required whatsoever. But what this is very effective at doing is closing off chokes so that people can't push your teams. This is a tactical grenade. It is also very powerful at closing down the ability to res, in the sense that if you down somebody, you can throw this around them and their teammates can't push them to res them, and there is a high chance that, even though it is very tiny damage, it will last long enough to actually close that kill and sort of gain that for your team. On top of all of that, we also gain the ability to give our teammates, and this doesn't apply to yourself, remember, but our teammates do gain 10% additional damage to any enemy that is status affected. So if your teammates are playing with you, which they should be, you should always be team shooting in PvP. You should never really be in 1v1s if you can avoid it. And this is just a nice little feature as well. But we're mostly here for the Desert Eagle, the D50. My weapon of choice with this build, my primary weapon, is the MP5N. I've done a lot of testing with different SMGs, and I don't know what it is with the MP5N, but it seems to have a ridiculously tight accuracy cone compared to almost every other SMG. There are some that are very close to it. Lady Death is definitely not one of them. That thing is just kicks like a mule. This thing is stable, it's accurate, and when I say accuracy cone, what I'm talking about there is bloom. So essentially the white dot in the center of your screen, your reticle, your accuracy stat dictates how far that can deviate from the center of your screen, and your stability stat dictates how aggressively it moves around. So if you have, for example, a very small accuracy cone, a very large accuracy stat on your weapon but very low stability, that means that the dot will ping around like crazy in the center, but it won't move that far from the center because accuracy reduces the maximum distance that that dot can move. Stability just dictates, you know, how aggressively it moves in different directions. This has very high accuracy, so it doesn't deviate too much from the center. And one of the main features of this build, one of the main points of this build, is to land your headshots. It's very, very powerful when you can do so, particularly if people are using shields. And I truly believe that the MP5 is the single best SMG in the game for landing consistent and reliable, well, body and headshots. So try and get a good roll of this if you can. If not, don't worry about it. Ethan, you're always knocking me out of the way, dude. I don't know what it is with this guy. He's proper rude. But try and get yourself an MP5 if you can. If not, just use any SMG that has the Sadist trait. For those of you that don't know, yes, this is incorrectly stated, but it is amplified damage. So 20% amplified damage to bleeding targets, which we're going to apply, of course, via the Ridgeways Pride chest within that 15-meter range. The way that you want to spec this weapon, as it already has 21% crit chance built in, and we are going to max the crit chance out in this build quite easily, in fact, is to put every mod into crit damage, as you can see just here, and then just get the 20 rounds on there as well for the extra bullet damage. Your secondary weapon, use whatever you want. I don't use Sadist on this because this is a ranged weapon, and ARs are always the best in slot for this, as they have 21% health damage, which is multiplicative, very powerful versus enemy deployed skills such as Stinger Hives and mortar turrets, so which of course you want to shoot from range. So an AR is, in my opinion, a must as a secondary on any close range build over something like a rifle or a sniper rifle, just purely for that massive amount of additional damage to skills. Optimist is a great talent to have, as I haven't got to worry about procking in sync or doing anything else with there. I don't have to worry about my crit chance being at 60% to use something like Strains. So I would definitely recommend Optimist here for your secondary weapon. And of course, the main feature of this build, no, we're not going to be running around using a pistol all the time. I will show you how to use it in the conflict game, but is the Survivalist D50. This comes intrinsically with 8% damage to targets out of cover and the Perfect Sadist talent. Don't forget, Sadist is amplified damage. Very easy to test this. If you don't believe it, just go into the firing range and you can see the numbers. And if you're not too sure of how to test damage in general, check the link at the top of your screen now and in the description below. That video is entirely dedicated to understanding DPS. I go through loads of different things in there and how to test your own builds to work out what's multiplicative, what's amplified, what combinations if your gear does more damage. That video has tons of useful information. Please don't forget to check it out if you do want some more info around that. So Perfect Sadist, loads of damage. But what I didn't realise about this pistol, it hits like an absolute truck. So if you look on the right hand side there, 4 blue build, you see it says 412k. Now I always thought the Magnum was the hardest hitting one. Nope, 361k. All of these pistols, 154, 184, even the Diceros with the Perfect Optimist is only 315. Obviously shotguns are going to do more, but this thing is ridiculous. 412k, and we're going to be hitting headshots with this as well. Even on this 4 blue build, you can hit, depending on how many buffs are active in your teams, if you have somebody with Firewall in close range or another Survivalist to buff your status damage, I think the minimum that you'll hit with a crit is about 700k and the maximum is 1 million. Yes, you heard that right. You can quite easily hit 1 million headshots with this pistol on a crit, or about 800k without. And if you don't have all of those buffs active, it's about 500k without for a single bullet. It's insanely powerful with this build, and there is a specific way that you need to be using that, which I will come to when we get to the skills section. So definitely get Survivalist on, definitely get the D50 on. You will not regret it, I promise you. Looking at the gear pieces, we are using Punch Drunk to enhance 2 aspects of our build. 20% pistol damage, D and H of course, is great for whipping out that D50, and the 20% headshot damage, I suppose once again buffs the D50s. You want to be going for your headshots if you can, but it also just buffs our MP5. You remember I was saying how well this gun hits heads? That 20% headshot damage, whilst an additive stat, is still more damage, and as we have amplified and multiplicative bonuses on this build, that's going to buff this anyway. If you can, you want to get with crit chance as its minor attribute so that you can roll it to blue. I personally believe that it is very important to have 4 blue on this build. I've tried it with 3, tried it with 5. 4 blue just seems to be the sweet spot. It's enough for your Survivalist D50 to hit enough damage and obviously your other weapons, but it's also enough to give you the survivability that you need, as of course more armor equates to more armor regen, as that is a percentage based stat. So in an ideal world, this will be rolled to 170k armor, obviously the 20% headshot damage, crit chance maxed out, and then a crit damage mod. Yes, having this much crit chance on your build will take you over the cap for your SMG, but we do need to get the chance as high as possible on the D50 in order to really close down those kills, which again I'll show you in the conflict footage shortly. Status effects though, I was happy with this. Status effects does buff the damage of the Ridgeways bleed, not by much. It's barely going to scrape 10k to be honest, and as I said before, I'm not here to cause status damage because I don't agree with it. I'm purely here to proc my own armor regen, stop them from sprinting, and proc my Sadist so that I can use my weapons, and that's where the status effect stat comes in nicely. We are running 2-piece Golan, as both of these have great synergy with the build, giving us 10% status effects again and 1% armor regen, which will stack very nicely with our Ridgeways when that's procced. You don't need to run Perfectly Wicked, however. It makes sense with this build as it already is a Golan, which we need to run 2 pieces of, but it is by no means a necessity, purely because Perfectly Wicked only gives us 27 seconds versus the 20 seconds of the standard Wicked, and as we reproc this all the time just for shooting into enemies, 20 seconds is plenty. So if you can't get a good Anarchist Cookbook, the named Golan backpack, don't feel like you need to. Standard Wicked will still give us exactly the same damage, which is 18% multiplicative damage to any status affected target. When we apply a status effect, it just buffs all of our damage, our total weapon damage, by that amount. So even if we switch to our AR, we'll still have the additional damage. You want to have this roll to crit chance and crit damage like the rest of your pieces on your build, and the second piece of Golan, as you can see, is rolled in exactly the same way. We are running the firm handshake, as once again this gives us 2 benefits, so this is where the synergy of the build comes in. Just like the named Punch Drunk Douglas and Harding mask, we gain 15% status effects, which is the single biggest stat you can get from a minor attribute, and we gain the 10% SMG damage. So just like the Punch Drunk, those double bonuses both have great synergy with the build, and I do feel that it is a necessity. And this will do a little bit more work than your contractors, particularly as we're already running Foxes on the build anyway. And the status effects is great. If you need to just get a couple of shots on a couple of enemies and run away because you've kind of got yourself in a bit of a tricky situation. That 15% status effects just means that the bleed is going to last longer, which means they can't sprint as much as you can, and it'll get your health, your armor regen kicking in even more. But if you do want to go contractors, if you don't have a good firm handshake, that is absolutely fine. We are running Fox's Prayer for the, once again, multiplicative damage to targets out of cover on the build, as this buffs all of our weapons, including our pistol, and this is where we're able to hit those insane headshots through this item. If you don't need the extra damage, if you feel that you want extra survivability, a great second choice would be the named Murakami knees, the Emperor's Guard. This gives us 20% skill duration, which is great for one of the skills that we are using, although really that's very much a secondary feature. But of course it does give us the 1% armor regen. Again, if you can get a pair with crit chance rolled on, that will be ideal, but I appreciate that these things are super rare. So don't worry if you don't have a pair of these, just stick with the Foxes. It's my personal preference, you know, and I just think that it's best in slot for this particular build. And of course the final piece would be the exotic, the Ridgeways Pride. So all we need to do to proc this is to shoot enemies within 15 meters, and then it will give us anywhere from 3 to 48% of our armor back per second, based on the amount of enemies that are bleeding in that 15-meter radius. So this is only here to proc our Sadist talents. We gain the amplified damage from this, and of course for our sidearm as well, and Wicked. This is literally the reason here. And of course on top of all of that, we're gaining the 1% from Golan, and really at least 3%. So you're going to be on a minimum of 4% armor regen every single fight, if not more. Once you've got all of your pieces spec'd as I have, so you want your Foxes to crit chance, you want these to crit chance, you want your 2 Golan to crit chance and crit damage, and if you can get your Douglas and Harding to crit chance as well, so really across the board, that's going to get your crit chance on your Survivalist to 50% exactly, which is perfect. And then if somebody's running Coyotes, this will be at 60%. If you can get that, you will have some insane games, so just bear that in mind. I'm not quite there yet, but you know, ultimately with the status effect on here, this still works really well. So, looking at the skills, we are using the Bulwark Shield. Now, the way that you want to use this is when you are low health, or if you come up against more than one agent, you need to be using your SMG to do as much damage as possible for obvious reasons, as this will hit very, very hard and apply continuous damage. Try and get your bleeder on any enemy that is in front of you, and then when you yourself start taking damage that you think might kill you before you can kill them, you need to bring out your Bulwark, which will automatically pull out this, and then you need to start going for those headshots. If they're using shields, do not shoot the shield, shoot the head. Always, always, always shoot the head. I know that's easier said than done, but the accuracy of this weapon is fantastic. It's really good at hitting headshots. If they don't have a shield and you prefer going for your body shots until you get better at aiming at the head, that's fine. It will still pack about a 500k punch on a crit, and a little bit less than that, maybe 100k less than that when it's not critting. So, you know, don't feel that you have to go for the headshots, but if you can, I would absolutely recommend it. That's where you're going to hit the real big numbers, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the conflict game, as long as my aim permits, of course. The secondary skill that you want to be running is the Booster Hive. Now, this is a flex skill. This is dependent on what else is in your team. If you only ever need one Booster Hive in your team, by the way, but in addition to that, you should always have one Booster Hive on your team. This skill is way too good not to be using, you know, on one person on every single game that you play. If nobody else is running it, stick it on yourself if your skills are flexible. This will not only cleanse all status effects, it then makes you resistant to status effects, and it gives you a 20, if not higher, percent handling buff. That means that our MP5 and our Desert Eagle, or D50, or whatever you want to call it in this, the Survivalist D50, will reload 20% faster. It will be 20% more stable and more accurate. And maybe most important, well, not most importantly, but as importantly, you can swap between the two 20% faster. So the Booster Hive, in my opinion, is one of the best PvP skills in the game. But if you're playing with a team or a random game where you see this already on, I would recommend switching to the Jammer, which in my opinion is just as good. That's going to close down all the skills, all the, you know, those dirty tier 6 hives that people like to leave outside your spawn and stuff. You're going to shut down all those noobs with the Jammer, and then you can just go and kill them. So either or, I would say a best in slot. You know, EMP Sticky Bomb is just as good as the Jammer, but it isn't great at shutting down skills, so just it depends on your playstyle. But yeah, top of the list is definitely Booster Hive for me. So that's the build there. Let's have a quick look at the crit chance stats across all 3 weapons, and then I'm going to load into that conflict game for you all. So the PvP weapon damage is, we'll just say 31k, although this isn't taking into account any of the amplified or multiplicative damage bonuses. The MP5N has 60 chance and 132 damage with 90% headshot damage from that punch drunk, which is insane. If we switch over, oh, wrong button. If we switch over to the, what am I trying to say, the AR, we're at 54%, as I've got all the mods on that to crit chance. And then 117 crit damage, but the headshot damage is even higher, as most ARs intrinsically have 75% built in. And then finally, if we switch over to the sidearm, 44% chance. So this is where I was saying with the punch drunk, if you can get one with crit chance that you can optimize to 6% and roll it to blue, this will be at 50%, which is exactly where I'd want it to be. And then if you're lucky enough to get a Coyote's user, bam, you've got, you know, crit chance cap on your most powerful weapon in your build, which, yes, I know is a pistol, but you'll see in the gameplay. Crit damage isn't amazing, but that's fine. You know, headshot damage is really where this thing shines. I don't know why, but for some reason, this pistol has 140% headshot damage built in. So this is why I keep saying, go for your heads. If you do, you're going to hit some disgraceful numbers. And again, I'm really looking forward to showing you just what that can do. If you look at the armor stats of the build, you'll see I'm at 1.474 million. 1% of that is armor regen from the double Golan, but don't forget that in each fight it's going to be at least 3% more than that, as you're going to gain, you know, another 45k on top of that for one extra person. And if you get 2 people bleeding, well, that's going to be, you're probably going to be hitting about, I think with 2 people bleeding on this build, you can hit just over 100k regen, which is crazy. It's crazy powerful. Everything else is just based on the maxed out watch level and the survivalist specializations, and nothing too exciting there. So that's the build. You've seen all the stats, you've seen the kind of crazy stats that the Deagle has, the Desert Eagle. What we're now going to do is load into that conflict game, and hopefully, aim permitting, I'll show you some pretty cool ways to play this build and just how powerful it really can be. Let's get started.
Neutralize all enemies before you run out of reinforcements.
Okay, here we are on Fort McNair. Now, I did see there was a guy using backfire. It looks like he's fully spec'd into bleed resistance. The one time I see a backfire user in PvP is what I'm trying to showcase this build. We did also come up against another Ridgeways user and a Eclipse status user, which is a bit disappointing to see, but never mind. Let's see how we get on. So, just to clarify, I know I've been kind of bigging up the Desert Eagle, the D50. You definitely want to be using that as a secondary as opposed to a primary. So, like, you always use this as your main weapon. And the moment you start taking damage, one headshot there. So you see what I'm saying? I don't know if you saw the damage numbers there. That was about 750k. It's crazy. It's crazy powerful. And because I've got this big tier 4 bulwark that has 10 million HP, it makes it so easy to survive as well. Now, yes, I appreciate that they take ×5 damage, so maybe just look at it as 2 million instead of 10 million. 2 million HP that is not damaging you, that is allowing your 4% if not higher armor regen to kick in whilst being able to use your D50, it's just a great skill to use, and they can't hit your head like I'm able to do there. Yeah, it just works really well. That's what you get for using Eclipse Protocol, guy. 669 there. This guy's a bleed immunity, doesn't he? Fair play, fair play.
Agent down.
So I lost a lot of damage versus him. I didn't have a Sadist proc, I didn't have the Wicked proc. Yeah, which obviously takes a lot away from the build. And he got a really good EMP sticky bomb on me there as well, which is a great counter to a Bulwark user, by the way. And, you know, this is why I don't edit my footage in conflict. I want you guys to see where the build falls short, because before I started this channel, all I used to see was montage videos. Like, here's a build, now let me show you 15 3-second clips of where I kill somebody, as opposed to just the unedited footage where actually, like every build in the game, you know, you're showcasing its weaknesses. This build absolutely has its weaknesses. I feel that the strengths outweigh that. But yeah, just need to bear in mind. So this guy's still using his status. Just 2-tapped that guy. Oh, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
An agent needs assistance.
Not sure where he just got shot from. Oh, I can see now. I'll see you later, my dude. And another good thing as well is because I've left that bleed on that guy. He just set himself on fire. He just set himself on fire.
The boost has been
Yeah,
taken
because you
by
leave the bleed on
allies.
them, and we've got the 15% status effect from the firm handshake, the 10 from the Golan, and on my build I've actually got a bit more on the punch drunk. That bleed is definitely going to kill them. So again, it's hard to see there, but you see I was mostly just going for his head. He brought out a shield. Don't go for the shield on a Ridgeways build. It will apply the bleed. It will do no damage. You know, the bleed on this build is nothing. Like I said before, it's there to proc your weapon talents and your armor regen only. It is not like a tier 6 hive. So always go for the head. But that MP5 and the Desert Eagle, particularly if you get your handling buff off first from the booster, make that super, super easy. And if you just look at that blue, I mean, look at it. It's tight. Sorry, buddy. I was just there. It's all good, it's all good. Gave him a little scare there. I've been pulsed and I'm going to come this way, but it's fine. I'm feeling brave.
Drone detected. Agent down.
Not today, guy. That's the fight that I need to get out of. Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh, I had 4 people at my kill feed there, yeah. So in that situation there, that's where your bullet does come in handy, but of course it only has 2 million HP in PvP as opposed to 10 million. And yeah, you're not going to survive that. What you want to do in that situation, if you see 3 people just come around a corner, is just spray them all very quickly with your MP5 and just run. Oh, I'm been shot in the back. Are they spawning behind us still?
Agent down.
That seems a little bit unfair. Yeah, so, you know, like all builds, you're never going to be able to survive 3 people gunning you down at the same time. That's literally impossible. But you can certainly have a good chance by just quickly spraying like this and then just running and hopefully getting your bleed across all 3 or 4 of them. However many are there, you know, you'll get loads of armor regen from that. You'll slow them all down, and it should, in the right situation, get you enough chance to get away. But
the enemy is about to claim the supply
that's not guaranteed, of course.
The specialization supply drop has fallen.
2
into enemy
firewalls. Ugh. Still going to push him though. Oh, I've had somebody leave. Awesome. Awesome. How many grenades does this guy have?
You're halfway through the fight.
So you can play that game.
System disrupted.
One thing you do not want to do is take on a firewall because they're still super powerful and they didn't have them anywhere near enough.
Serious trauma detected.
Ah, I used the rocket launcher against me. That's fair enough.
Agent down.
Not much we can do there. There is a little trick to the firewall flamethrower for those of you that don't know. You can stand really close to them and it actually does no damage. It's like the cone comes out in front of the weapon as opposed to directly from their centre of mass. So if you stand, you know, if that was the person using it, if you stand right in front of them, they actually won't damage you at all. Nice little trick there for the firewall flamethrower until they nerf that, as it desperately needs. Rushing through him.
System malfunctioning. An agent needs assistance.
Do you see that? Oh, 562k without even a crit. So that's exactly how to play it there. I shot the first guy down, I come in here, I noticed that he was doing more damage than me, and you've got to make that judgment call on the fly. And then I just killed him with a pistol. 837k. You see that bleed is only 10k as well, so again, this is what I'm saying, this isn't the status build, it's a weapon build. But I just did over 800k, nearly 900k to that guy. I basically two-shot him, which is crazy. So yeah, try the D50 out. As you can see, it gets some ridiculous damage numbers, and this is on a 4 blue build. I don't have, you know, all of the crit chance and crit damage and contractors plus foxes. I've just got some random stuff on there, but that punch drunk really makes the difference. So you need to try and get a blue one if you can. 1 roll 2 armor. What we'll now do is have a quick look at the leaderboard to see how we did, and then of course we will bring the video to a close. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts in the comments, how you think I put this build together? Do you think you could do a better version? What's your own personal opinion on status effects? Do you think I'm a little bit harsh with it? I'm basing my experience off of, I've been playing this game quite heavily since TU8, and I know a lot of people that have left the game because of it, so I obviously have a negative opinion. The fact that Massive have tried to nerf it 2 separate times and still haven't tells me that clearly they believe that it's too powerful as well. They're just very slow to act on it. We did manage to finish the game on 12 kills, 4 deaths and 3 assists with 38 million damage, so again that just shows how powerful this build can be. We did come up against a bleed immune person and a status user there as well, so this build definitely seems to fit into a lot of different group types. But yeah, let me know what you think. I've been loving using that D50. It is ridiculous, and the bulwark combination just gives you that survivability to get your scores like that. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for the continued support of the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.